We left one man there, which we shouldn't have done, in the village. We gave him a 45, and the company commander says, "We'll send people back to get you." That never happened. And I just shudder to think of what happened to him. What was my life like? Well, it was a typical young kid's life. I like to go out in the woods, and I like to be outside all the time. I lived in Taylor at that time, and it was pretty nice out there in the country. And I spent a lot of times outside, and I took care of myself. I got my own meals and everything. I was very independent. Sometimes I'd be out overnight and everything and never come home. And my mother she never asked me, where were you, or anything like that. But I was kind of an outdoorsman, not in the sense of being a hunter or anything like that. But I was outside all the time, and I think it helped me in Korea when I had to be out in the elements all the time. I was only 17 when I enlisted. Well, I wanted to experiment. I wasn't happy with my life as a civilian. I thought, well, maybe the military is the way to go. But I was just a dumb teenager, that's the way it is. Some guy got on the mic when we were still on the ship, just before we disembarked for Japan, and says, "You're all going to war." Everybody on that ship was told they were going to war. And at that time, I thought it was a pretty good deal. I thought, exciting, I get to go to war. And I thought that would be an exciting thing to do. Well, like it would be in the movies, you see the enemy out there, they're the bad guys, and you shoot at them, and you get to play war games.
I told you you'd need this bad someday. Thanks, Marine.
But when I got my first baptism of fire, I kind of changed my mind.
All right. One more thing. Your assignment tonight is strategic. You can't give the enemy a break. Send them to hell.
Where we were surrounded for 3 days, and it was written up in the paper. I have a copy of it my mother kept. We were without food for those 3 days. They tried to drop us some, but it busted open. They dropped us a map telling us the best way to get out, but it didn't look very helpful. We wound up having to make a charge in order to break loose. We couldn't just walk out of there. So we had to fix bayonets and charge the enemy. About this time, I had enough of war. I found out it wasn't very much fun. But we had a lot of walking wounded. We left one man there, which we shouldn't have done, in the village. We gave him a 45, and the company commander says, "We'll send people back to get you." That never happened. And I just shudder to think of what happened to him. First action we saw, I got hit right in the helmet. And the sergeant next to me said, "Schuster got it right in the head." And I thought I did. I thought my brains were scattered. because it went boing and moved the helmet. It took me a minute to realize, it didn't hit my head. And I was okay, but boy, I was really shook up. And then I knew there was going to be trouble as soon as it got dark. And I wanted to get a package of food off that truck. All of a sudden, boom, 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 that comes in. And everybody down on the road, there was a lot of soldiers down on the road, were wiped out. And when that siege lifted and everything was blown up, the truck and all, there was only 2 of us left on the road. And one guy was hopping around, and I went over and there were bodies laying all over. There was heads and helmets, cheeks of the butt and everything torn up, and clothes blown off of people. But I went over to try to give some first aid to that guy, and I couldn't walk. I said, what the heck's going on? And all of a sudden, my left foot started to burn, because that metal was hot. And I thought, oh boy, I got it too. And then I went when I'm looking down there, I see blood running down my leg from my knee down. And I thought, I wonder how many holes I've got in me. I didn't know. The other ones I didn't even feel. The 2nd Battalion would later be wiped out. I wouldn't be involved in that because I was in the hospital at that time. When they wiped my unit out, they sent me right from the hospital straight to it. There was nobody there but South Koreans. The 2nd Battalion was all South Koreans, or there wouldn't have been any. And when I hear about the Chinese coming into the war, I wrote my mother almost a goodbye lesson. It wasn't quite that bad, but I told her to accept anything that happens as the will of God, and don't worry about it. First of all, we were kicked off of a ridge. The enemy came right on us, and I can still see their silhouette, three enemy. And my back was turned, and the guy that was in front of me, I saw his eyes bulge out, and he lifted up his gun. And so I looked around there and saw, and I just put it over my shoulder, pow, 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 pow. And he was going pow, pow, pow. Anyway, they kept on coming up. We had to get out of there because there was only 9 of us on that finger. And we ran back to where our headquarters was, and there was nobody there. They deserted the hill and left us there, 9 men. And here's the enemy coming up from both sides of the finger. We ran back to the main part of the hill. We knew they had to be somewhere there. And it was Company C. And they had Fox Company, which is my company, with them. And so I went over there, and we could hear the enemy behind us. We went up there, and I was worried about having a foxhole. I didn't have any, It was a C Company's position. And they all had foxholes, but Fox Company, my company, we were right on the flat ground. So I went to the company commander and I said, "Sir, I don't have any hole." I wished 1,000 times I never would have done that. Because he says, "You're just the man we need." And he put me on another finger, a little shorter one, and they put the automatic weapons on fingers. And the enemy always tried to knock out the automatic weapons before they made their main assault. And I have to be the assistant gunner. He said he was killed, so you go over there and take his place. The moon was real bright. It just happened to be real bright that night. Right over the top of us, like somebody put a light over us. And they kept throwing grenades on our position. Some of them didn't, it seemed like they weren't much farther than from here to the window. But anyway, they're blowing all around us there, trying to get that machine gun. And that's when I finally threw some back. And I heard them squeal. So I know I got somebody. I hear this bugle, a low sound of the bugle. And all of a sudden, from 1,000 throats, yeah, here they come. Anyway, I had the assistant machine gunner's carbine, 30-round magazine, and I had my M1. The M1 on my right arm, and I had that on my left. And when they're coming up, I'm bow, 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 just like John Wayne, except I didn't feel like John Wayne. We finally had to call in our artillery on our own position to stop them. The company commander was killed. He was making a speech, trying to cheer everybody up. He says, they knocked 10 and 20 of us off the knolls and fingers. He says, well, now we're 2 companies. He says, we'll fight to the death if we have to. Well, I wasn't very encouraged. So anyway, all of a sudden I hear, phew! I heard it go right through him. He says, oh my God, they got me. And a sergeant took over, and he ordered the retreat. But there was one guy I was getting close to. His name was Short. He was anything but short, big, tall guy. And we were talking a lot together, and he was talking about his sister. Evidently, his sister raised him, and he had nothing but high praise for her, how he missed her and everything. A horrible thing happened. Same deal when we were kicked off those knolls, same night. He comes straggling up. And I thought we were the end, because we were left abandoned on a finger. I thought we were the last ones. After we all got up there and in place, here he comes. And he's all out of breath because it's real steep. But he's on his way up. Everybody was nervous. And he says, who is this? And he says, Short. Pow! They shot him anyway. They're nervous kids, you know. And I told, right after I heard him say Short, I says, don't shoot because I know him. Bam, they shoot him anyway. That's as close as I came to having a friend. But there was still a lot of beauty there, and especially when you got up in the mountains. It was a catchy tune, and I hope that a lot of the men would hum it and whistle it and things like that. Everybody was kind of attached to it. I'll try to give you what it's like. Da da dum da da dum da da dum da da dum la da 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 da. But it was worth it.